Okay, how's it looking on your end?
We're live.
Okay. Got it.
We're live.
Oh, now all of a sudden my video's going weird. Why is that? Hold the phone.
Try turning it off and back on.
I don't know why that's doing that. I'm going to turn off my video real quick. Oh, there we go. I had to close down because it's streaming. Also, I can see it on both sides. I had to close that one side down. All right, here we go. We're going to start recording. We're going to go ahead and admit everybody. So now we just have a couple of minutes to 7 o'clock. So we'll just be patient and start the meeting at 7 o'clock. I'll continue to let people in. The longest 2 minutes of the day. Here it is. Someone has happy fingers typing away.
I'll mute. It wasn't you, Kirsten?
All right, everybody. It is 7 o'clock. Thank you all for being here for the February edition of the Oregon Country Fair board meeting. My name is Al, and I'll be your facilitator today. I am going to start by ringing this Tibetan singing bowl, and you're all going to hear it. It worked that time, right? Okay, good. All right. I believe that Tom wants to say a word at the top of the agenda here, so I'm going to let him start.
Thanks, Al. Thanks everybody. I just wanted to quickly read the mission statement of the Oregon Country Fair and then say a couple words. The Oregon Country Fair creates events and experiences that nourish the spirit, explore living artfully and authentically on Earth, and transform culture in magical and joyous and healthy ways. I'm hoping that we all remember the amazing, wonderful, joyful things that bring us all together, and remember our ultimate focus on the health and well-being of the fair and our communities. And let's have a really good board meeting. Thanks, Hal.
All right. The first up on the agenda is announcements. Do we have announcements? I see Stephen first, and then I see your hand as well, Sue.
Hi.
Stephen? Stephen?
Stephen asks that we come back to him.
Okay, thanks. You're first, Sue.
Okay. This is actually a new announcement. The Caring Fund Art Bingo fundraiser will be held Sunday, February 26th from 3 to 6 p.m. at our new location, which is Drop Bear Brewery at 2690 Willamette. For those of you who remember, this is the old Turtles location. Gratitude Brewing had to take a couple months off. We reached out to Drop Bear. They said, yes, we want to have you. So that's where we will be. Thanks.
Thanks, Sue. AJ?
Yeah, I want to take a second to acknowledge the tragic loss of a lot of lives for the earthquakes that happened in Turkey and other places. We cannot just ignore things like this. I hope that we all send our positive energy towards those countries and those peoples, those human beings that are dealing with tragic loss of life. I also want to make it important that we acknowledge the loss of life here in our country. And again, I say his name. His name was Tyree Nichols, just another Black man killed at the hands of police in this country for no reason. It may seem like these are conversations that we're always having, and some may feel annoyed by it, or it's whatever. But some of us can't afford to be quiet and silent about it. And I wish that we get to a place today that all of us feel the same way that I feel about this tragic loss of life for no cause in this country for Black men. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. I appreciate you bringing that to this space. Stephen? Are you ready, or shall I wait? Okay. Announcements. Is that board members only? No, okay. Shell?
Hi, thank you. I just want to make a formal announcement that we lost Nathan Gazurian, who was known as Bug, a longtime member of Ambiance Crew, and he camped in Marshalls, and he was a gem of a human. And he passed Saturday, January 28th, and it was just 3 weeks after his 42nd birthday. And there is a big group of us in this greater community that are deeply grieving his loss.
Thanks, Shell. I'll hold a moment of silence after these announcements in case there are any others. John?
I just wanted to invite Stephen to email me his announcement if he wants it put out there, because I think it's important that we hear from our membership secretary when he's got something to tell us. So if that comes to me, I'll circle back around with you.
I appreciate that. I think he stepped out to see if that would fix his mic issue, so he might have missed that.
Yeah, I just let him back in, so he might have missed that.
So, Stephen, John Alexander's good if you want to email him the announcement to get it out there.
Okay.
Oh, but I can hear you.
You can hear me?
I
We
sure
can.
can.
Okay, my screen tells me I'm muted, but
Yeah.
if y'all can hear me, I'll believe you, not my screen.
Yeah.
Cool. So I just wanted to say that the ballots are due on the 18th at 8 p.m. At the OCF office. Wednesday of this week is the last date I can mail a ballot to somebody. So if you've not received your ballot, or if you need a replacement ballot, you need to contact me by Wednesday. I will not mail anything after that because it won't come back in time. If you're out of town, even Wednesday might be too late, so you should mail me like right now. After Wednesday, if anybody needs a ballot, they will have to make arrangements with me to pick one up at the office. It'll be by appointment only. The office staff have no access to ballots. I will have to prepare one and drop it off at the office or meet you there. So if you need a replacement ballot after Wednesday, contact me. We will accept ballot appointments up through Saturday the 18th. We will be working in the office in the evening of the 18th. So you could come by at the last minute and pick one up if you've made prior arrangements. We will not have any fresh ballots available on the 18th. You will have to arrange with me ahead of time. So email elections@OregonCountryFair.org if you need a ballot. Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen. I appreciate that. I would like to remind everybody that cameras for board members and employees only here in the Zoom space, please. And if there are no further announcements, then we will hold a moment of silence for those we've lost over the last month. Thanks, everyone. The next item is approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Do you have any comments?
I move to approve the minutes.
I second.
All right. Paxton moves.
And that's from December,
Oh, from December. Okay.
or February, excuse me. No, January.
January. Okay, that's all.
I'm sorry about that.
No problem. Paxton moves to approve
He's
the
a
minutes
dyslexic right now.
of January, and Anne seconds it
For January.
for January. Right. That's what we're approving. Are there any dissents? Are there any abstentions? John abstains. All right, we'll call those minutes approved. And next up is reveal of the current agenda.
Al,
Yeah.
John Silvermoon had his hand in the chat box.
Oh, sorry. My mistake. I just thought that was an abstention hand. John, would you like to speak?
Well, I had hoped that someone would indicate why I was absent at the last meeting. I didn't know where to say it, but just so if anybody was curious, I was out of town, out of state indeed, dealing with a family matter and unable to attend. So,
Thanks, John. I think this is a perfectly fine space to do that. All right, the next item is the review of this agenda. We have a staff report, a treasurer's report. There are 2 items of old business we'll be discussing today: guideline changes and declaration of potential conflicts of interest, and then a number of new items that will be discussed.
Those new business items are actually queued up to become old business next month. So they're just there as as notes that that's what the topics will be next month.
Yeah, we won't be discussing them.
No, correct.
Is there any comments here or a motion to approve?
Move to approve the agenda for February 6th.
Second.
Thanks. Paxton moves to approve the agenda for this meeting, and John Alexander seconds. Are there any dissensions?
Yes,
AJ?
yes. I'm just voting no based on the new motions that are on this agenda.
Okay. Are there any abstentions? Okay, and it will be approved. Next up is membership comments. Anybody can speak for 2 minutes here about items that are not about to be discussed later. There will be a time during those items for membership input. First up, we have Stephen Bergson. And there's a timer in Kirsten's corner there. You're muted.
Hope I can get that time back. The OCF needs a proper confidentiality policy, but this new business disclosure proposal does not meet that need. I urge you to change course on this issue before next month. For far too long, the OCF has had far too much board business occur in the shadows, with a confused and false sense of what is or is not confidential. This has allowed people to say things and behave in ways that they would not do in public. Personal attacks, threats, extreme positions, as well as well thought out but controversial positions are not inherently confidential. Board directors, officers, and committee members should not be able to say whatever they want to each other and then claim that it is all confidential. The effect of this proposal is to throw a confusing blanket over every communication, both in meetings and outside of meetings. It will intimidate people into silence because almost anyone involved can claim that virtually anything is confidential. This proposal does not even differentiate what occurs in an open session, meaning if I tell my partner what happened in a committee meeting, I might be violating confidentiality. The effect of this proposal will be to provide cover and protection to people engaged in bullying or offensive behavior and to prevent specious arguments from being exposed to open examination. This proposal runs completely counter to the values of the OCF and is a complete departure from the open society that we advocate for. The first step of this process should be to rigorously and precisely identify legitimate confidential issues and then extend a proper confidentiality policy over only those subjects. The end result must not be something that allows anyone to engage in bad arguments or bad behavior and then claim that no one can speak about it because it is confidential. If you're embarrassed by what you're saying, maybe you shouldn't be saying it. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. John, I see that you noted that this might be an agenda item that we're talking about. All I see is guideline changes, so I'm guessing it might be coming up in that. But it's okay if it comes out here. It won't come out later. It's already in there. Go ahead.
Oh, my, I pushed enter from an old message when we were queuing up the video, so ignore me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spirit, I see your hand next.
Yeah, I'll try to keep this short. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to share tonight, but I did want to mention something that's been weighing on me quite a bit and within the political climate that we're all experiencing, especially on social media and the online platform. And I'm really disturbed by board members who have chosen to center themselves in this. It's a membership action that's taking place here. And when board members come in and participate, engage, and instigate personal attacks on members, you're really pitting the membership against one another. And I do believe the board has a particular responsibility here to help try to settle the tone down rather than create more upset. And so I just want the board members to think about this as they're engaging. And I have a lot more that I could say about some of the despicable behaviors I've seen and have experienced personally. But I will leave that to a different, I'll just leave it there. I just want the board to understand how they're impacting this current climate. Thanks.
Thanks, Spirit. Next is David.
Hello, my name is David 80. Totally different topic. I was recommended to attend this meeting by my friend Robin Bernardi because I was talking with her about something that's kind of been bothering me. I've been going to the fair since 1997, and I'm a big advocate of loud outdoor acoustic music. I'm a co-founder and original member of Samba Ja. I play in the Balkan Brass Band. I love loud outdoor acoustic music. What I'm not so wild about is over the last several years, more and more people are carrying around large sound systems where they just have to only turn it up to 11 and they can cover up everything else that's going on. And I don't know where the right place to say this is, but I'm saying it here. It seems like there could be a designated space for electronically amplified personal boom boxes or whatever, or big sound systems on trailers, but it just seems to be kind of going everywhere. So I'd just like that to be put on some agenda somewhere at some point. That's all.
Appreciate it, David. Thank you. Next up is Heather Kent.
So I can't see whatever was sent, I guess, to you about, if I understood you correctly, you said that you got a comment about how the confidentiality issue will be an upcoming agenda item. And I just want to make sure right away, right now, that nobody is thinking about quelling member input about things that now, luckily, gratefully, thankfully, we know about further in advance and are able to speak to and hopefully give input and help board members to figure out how you want to tweak things well ahead of the meeting at which that thing will be voted on. So it is completely appropriate for us to speak now to a subject that will be coming up later as old business, rather than trying to scramble at the last second to deal with a motion that is not fully formed until moments before the meeting in some cases. So it has to be okay for people to speak to motions that come up in front of us as new business because later they're going to be old business. So this is a much more open and important process. And in terms of the confidentiality piece of that particular subject, which is not the only subject I'm talking about in general, all things should be able to be addressed and commented on as they come up. And on the confidentiality piece, the big question is always, and has to be figured out, who decides? Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Heather. And I definitely wouldn't be quelling any comment on that unless it was an item that was going to be talked about later today. And then we would move it, the membership comments, to that specific agenda item. That's all it was. But I appreciate your input. Next up, I see Sue.
I want to take a moment to express my deep appreciation and gratitude for all the work that Lucy Kingsley has done over decades with inventory crew and on budget committee. I will really miss her work there. It was a job well done. She has mousing down like no one else I've ever known. Thank you so much, Lucy.
Thanks, Sue. Any last minute membership comment hands? AJ.
Yes. So as I said earlier, I did not approve this agenda based on the new motion that was attached to this agenda. That new motion did not follow the process in which the board agreed to. And that new motion, in my opinion, is ridiculous. And I think people should pay attention to whose name is on that motion. For some of the folks who signed that motion, they talked about having more membership input and having membership know of things, but yet this motion would hide things from the membership. This motion is also being used as a bullying tactic. Things are being said behind closed doors, whether it's email or phone calls that are not in the three confidential topics. And I fear that the purpose of this motion is to hide bad behavior.
All right. Thanks, AJ. Appreciate it. Lisa?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point of process, which is that this is a time for member input, not board discussion. And also the motion to which my colleague is referring to did follow proper process. That is absolutely not true.
Thanks, Lisa. I wasn't sure if board members were also members of the Oregon Country Fair, and thus were allotted their 2 minutes like everyone else. But if it's policy that board members don't speak during membership comment, I'm willing to take that into consideration in the future. I see LT's hand.
Good evening. I just wanted to say that having paid a lot of attention to the discussion on a lot of fora over the last several weeks, that I both respect and appreciate persons in leadership, board members and otherwise, who have elected not to participate, and also those who have. But I do want to say that I haven't seen anything from any board member that could be fairly characterized as pitting members against each other or doing anything except actively engaging in an extremely vital and frankly controversial issue within the community. I haven't seen any board members characterizing other board members as saboteurs. I saw the individual who accused board members of pitting members against each other, putting in writing, calling a sitting board member a saboteur. And I want to put on record that I object to what I call defamatory language, indicating an ill intent on the part of any board member. I don't think there's anyone sitting on that board who has anything but a positive intent towards the health of our community. And so I just want to say that, and the only other thing I want to say is this: I've seen a number of folks in this conversation online essentially attempt to silence other individuals, and I want to say that I take exception to those who feel that they have the right or the power to try to silence other voices because they don't want to hear them. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thanks, LT. I appreciate your input, and I do also want to make it clear that I'm sure that there's a lot going on online. Try to stay out of online stuff as much as possible, and there could be all kinds of stuff happening outside of your view or my view or anyone else's view.
Al, may I interject something really quickly?
Sure,
Just
Tom.
during the membership comments, I think it's great for members to make comments, but we don't necessarily need to respond. And so we can just let those comments flow. And that's good because we can take those into consideration, but it's not a time for dialogue.
I hear that, Tom.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I have a point of order?
Sure.
May I ask the president to clarify whether board members are members and can speak during membership?
It's unclear, but I would prefer that board members act as board members during this time frame, and that the membership during the membership comments. It's an ambiguous sort of agenda item, but I do believe it would be good for just the members to comment at this time. And it's not it's not clear, so it's just perhaps from this point forward, maybe we move in that direction.
I'm going to think on that.
And mostly, pardon me for another comment. Mostly, I'm just looking at the linguistics of the agenda. When it does say membership comments, I'm just honoring sort of that line item, if that makes sense.
I'm going to take this offline for now, and I will be happy to talk to anybody outside of this and make things clear in the future moving forward. Firecat, Tom, and Aaron. I'm waiting patiently.
Hi. Hi, sorry. It was actually to the last subject. Board members, in my experience, are members, but in a board meeting, the board meeting was designed for board members to be able to speak. So they should be able to speak about pretty much whatever makes sense during a board meeting. Of course, I'm going with old rules. Realistically, meetings, how they're run is up to the president, according to our bylaws, or they are designate. So the board probably needs to talk about this a little bit more if they want to set some hard and fast rules. We have allowed board members to speak during member input, because sometimes they're speaking during member input about something that has nothing to do with an agenda item. which is part of what member input is about. So I think it's going to be subject driven, possibly, but just my 2 cents. Thank you.
I appreciate everyone's 2 cents. Thank you. Jonathan Pincus, you're up next, and Spirit wants to finish the 2 minutes, whatever they have left of their 2 minutes.
Hi, I agree with what Aaron just said. That's what I was going to address. Historically, we've allowed board members to speak in member input as members. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Spirit?
Yeah, I was hoping that I wouldn't have to be the one to bring attention to this, but it's really highly inappropriate for someone to express that they've been personally attacked and then to allow somebody to come on and discredit that experience. Trauma is real, bullying is real, it's happening within our organization. And I want the board to be taking note of this, because board members are participating and board appointed committee members are participating in personally attacking. My family has been attacked, my grandbaby, my child, my livelihood, a Facebook page dedicated to hate on Spirit, OCF minus Spirit. Nobody's talking about that kind of stuff. It is not acceptable. These are violations of our code of conduct. The board needs to step up and stop allowing this, especially in board meetings. Do not discredit the trauma of individuals. It is unacceptable.
Thank you, Spirit. I'm not seeing any further hands here. The next item on the agenda is the staff report.
Thank you, Al. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time tonight. My report this evening starts with our financials. All the crew budgets are being sent out this week. Thank you to the board for passing the 2023 budget last Monday. Capital improvement projects will be approved by the board at the March 6th meeting. The window to submit capital improvement projects ended on January 31st. We have selected Green Growth CPA to conduct our SVOG program specific audit, our 2022 financial review, and our 990. I have good news from Culture Jam. We have hired Jans Ingberg as the new Culture Jam program director. His start date was February 1st, 2023. He has served as the camp director for Culture Jam for the last 6 years. I would like to give a moment to have him introduce himself and to welcome him to the team. Jans, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Jans. The floor is yours.
Hello.
Thank you. Welcome to the team.
Board. Hello, Oregon Country Fair people. And I just want to say that I feel incredibly blessed to be having the baton passed to me from Robin Bernardi, who really is my mentor in this work and brought me on. I came on 6 years ago, but really that was as the director. I've been part of Culture Jam for the last 8 years. And I'm really passionate about the work, and I'm passionate about working with teens and providing a space where we create diverse community and a strong container of trust in order to create that kind of depth of connection and learning from difference that happens in that space. And, just watching and being in contact with the other camps that do this work all over the world, that we're very blessed here to be able to do it on this incredible land that the Oregon Country Fair stewards, and to be supported, as a philanthropic effort by the entire community. It's not lost on me that this is a really special thing. And I intend to steward it well into this next phase. So thank you.
Thank you, Jans. So glad to have you on our team. Robin would like to say a few words. Robin, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I'm right here. And it's a big day. It's a big day for me. It's a big day for Jans. Thank you, everybody. I do have 4 paragraphs I want to read because it's such a big day. So Jans is a longtime Culture Jam staff, facilitator, and collaborator. I have been blessed to have worked with Jans since he showed up as Culture Jam staff in 2010, where he brought his incredible skills as a musician to the youth that summer. It was at that time that he fell in love with the camp model and went on to study with Charlie and Peggy up at the Whidbey Institute. To have the opportunity to pass the baton on to someone who I could only dream would step forward for this role is truly a gift. Now Jans will continue the work that Charlie and Peggy Taylor began in the late 90s, Leslie Scott and the Country Fair replicated in the early 2000s, and that I was lucky enough to carry forward to date. Among his many gifts, Jans is a world-traveled professional musician, an event organizer, a group facilitator, and a father of 3. He also has a special knack and a passion for bringing creatively engaged people of different ages, talents, and cultural backgrounds together to make magic happen. He cares deeply about empowering youth and understands the intricacies of the camp model more deeply than almost anyone I know. See, he has also experienced the many complexities of managing events and groups, including this one. Culture Jam is a powerful and dynamic creative extravaganza that hosts up to 100 people for 9 full days. We are a carefully organized community of kitchen and site volunteers, adult youth mentors composed of 25 passionate artists, performers, and change makers, highly trained lead facilitators, and most importantly, 55 teenagers every year. Complex, passionate, sometimes challenging, and always inspiring. I know that Culture Jam is safe in Jan's hands, and for this, I'm deeply grateful. I want to thank everyone who interviewed for this position and Kirsten for her great expertise and her support of Culture Jam. As I mentioned in a board meeting a few months back, I'll support the new hire through this coming season. So that means that my email address will still be active. So don't hesitate to email me at any time. But when it comes to Culture Jam Biz going forward, feel free to send emails to Jans at his new fair email address, which is jans@OregonCountryFair.org. Thank you. Thank you all.
Robin.
Love you all so much.
Thank you, Robin, for all of your efforts on Culture Jam, and welcome, Jans, to the family. Okay, moving on. Fair Care has finalized the Progressive Solutions policy, and it has been sent for legal review. We anticipate having the draft policy as new business ready for the board to approve in April of 2023. Hybrid meetings, we've been working steadily on trying to identify 3 locations per a board motion. We've been waiting for Northwest Youth Corp to determine if they were going to open or not. We finally decided that we have to move forward without them at this juncture. We can always revisit them once they open. We do have about $1,600 on file with them, which we will probably go and get a refund from. In 2020, we paid for the entire year of meetings, and then of course COVID hit. So we're very interested in staying with them because we already have a deposit with them, but we now are going to pull that deposit, and we will revisit them should they open their doors and have the technology that we need to do hybrid meetings. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because this will come as a motion to the board to decide which location that they would like to hold hybrid meetings at. But the choices are Lane Community College, main campus, the Longhouse, the Unitarian Universalist Church, which we have held many meetings, most commonly the food booth mandatory meetings. And then the other one is the Eugene 4J School District. They have several classrooms that we can rent at a very reasonable cost. We're still waiting for a little bit more information from them, but those are the three locations that we will be putting forth to the board for their approval and decision on where they would like to hold hybrid meetings going forward. Moving now to administration, we are currently working on 2023 contracts. We are negotiating a new 5-year contract with Honey Buckets. We're in the midst of negotiating the Ritsana contract, the Whitebird contract, the Lane County Sheriff's contract, the guidelines printing, many more, but those are the ones that are on our plate right now. We are also currently working on the outdoor assembly permit for Farside. We want to have that in by March. There is a 60-day advance application of the event required, and there is a public comment period. So we want to be able to get this in early enough so we can address any issues that might arise so that we are granted this for this year's fair. The third coordinator DEI workshop will be held Tuesday, March 14th from 6 to 8 p.m. via Zoom. The second one was well received. It is my goal to offer these types of training to the membership and to the leadership in this coming year. Projects that are still ongoing, the entertainment applications are up on our .org site and will close on February 15th. So if you know anyone who would like to perform at this year's fair, please encourage them soon to go to the .org site and apply. Craft applications are on the .org site in January and will run through April of 2023. Spring Fling planning is underway. We have secured the WOW Hall for May 6th, 2023. We anticipate revealing the 2023 poster at this event, and there will be a fundraiser for Culture Jam at the event. So if you have anything that you'd like to donate that we could auction off, we will be willing and eager to accept any and all donations for this fundraiser for Culture Jam. A new bit of business that has arisen since I submitted my report is that we have lost access to the VSB. It was having issues last year and will not be supported this year. So we are now moving all of our data over to the Four Winds database. This will be the first time that we have all crew data in one place. It actually is official. We have all the data now in one database. There will be coordinator training soon. This is the database that most security crews have been using for many years. Usernames and passwords will be going out soon to all of the coordinators. Like I said, we will be scheduling a coordinator training soon. Teen crew assignment requests are due from coordinators by the end of February. So teen crew apps can go up on March 1st. So coordinators that actually want crew teens to volunteer on their crew usually make that designation in February, and we will be doing that through this new database. So stay tuned for a lot more information on that in the coming weeks. I thank you all for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsten. We have a hand from John.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this question is appropriate here or this is a question for the treasurers, but I was curious if you had a figure, Kirsten, about how much has been raised from the online fundraising that program you initiated. I think it was in October.
Yeah, cumulatively, we raised about $6,000. The majority of it came in December. Those revenues hit January's income, and that was a $2,600 hit or addition to our January income.
Thanks. Next up after the staff report is the treasurer's report, budget items with, I believe, Hillary and Linda.
Yeah, I'll start and just keep it short. As Kirsten said, the board passed the operating budgets last Monday, and the budget committee will meet to review the capital projects this month and present it to the board in March. And I just want to thank everybody who was involved with the budget process, and particular thanks to the people who showed kindness and support for the people involved with the process. It's been a tough year, and there's been lots of strains, and strain and trauma go together, and kindness is a really great anecdote. And there have been people who showed great kindness and great support to me and other members of the committee. And I just really want to thank you a lot. That's it for me.
I don't have anything else to add, just
to, except for to say that, so the budget committee will be continuing to meet, and I think Hillary mentioned this, we'll be continuing to meet to talk through the capital projects. That's it. And ditto to what Hillary said as well.
Thanks, Hillary. Thanks, Linda. With nothing further, that will move us into the old business agenda items for today. The first one is guideline changes with Tom.
Thanks, Al. We have a number of guideline changes.
I apologize.
Yeah.
Did we just skip the committee's work group reports?
They get emailed and sent out now, I think.
Oh, okay. My apologies again. Since it's on the agenda, can I just speak very quickly to those?
Sure.
It's up to you. Okay. Yeah, just real quick. I just reviewing the committees, the committee minutes and things. I want to encourage everybody to take a look at that. As board members, we're charged with addressing big and sometimes challenging and controversial issues. And I also acknowledge and encourage our members who are engaging in OCF-related discussions wherever they are, while I also hope that when engaging, we all keep in mind kindness and our OCF codes of conduct. And with that said, I do want to highlight what the work our committees do and these minutes. While we don't discuss the details of the minutes during these meetings, they are brought into the record of these business meetings. Take a look. These documents reflect an enormous amount of positive time, amazing creativity, and spirit and love that our 10,000 plus members contribute to make our shared OCF what it is, and our ability to meet our mission and our philanthropic purpose. So with that said, be sure that our challenging work and our efforts to move beyond times of divisiveness are not overshadowed by the incredible work and positive contributions of our membership that are reflected in these minutes, and even beyond that, each of the things we all bring to the fair. So I just really want us to, really honor our membership. I don't want to monetize it, but I think of them as donors, and making it all, making this all happen. And so thank you all out there. And let's remember to do our best to reflect that awesomeness while we continue to deal with what we need to as board members and as a community.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate that. I haven't actually been involved in a meeting where we actually discussed or reviewed any committee updates, because it's always been sent in and then dispersed.
Right. So they're there and they're part of our record now. We bring them into the record for the meeting. So take a look at them because it's amazing.
Perfect.
Al,
Thanks.
may I jump in with a thought?
Sure.
Thank you. No, I appreciate, John, what you're saying, and it's so important. And yes, you're correct, Al, in that committee meeting minutes are in writing, and that's really helpful for us to be able to review them. And I want to honor kind of Sue's would like to say a few things, so I'd like to honor that, and then I'd like to move us past that into our new business motion, if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom. I wanted to give this report orally because it speaks to our very roots. This past Friday, the Bill Wooten Endowment Committee awarded a total of $15,000 in grants to nonprofit organizations serving youth in the fair's neighboring Fern Ridge community. This funding tangibly represents the fair's deep appreciation of our home community. I'm sorry, I'm not used to reading stuff off paper, so bear with. The following organizations received funding: Culture Jam for scholarships for low-income youth, Lane Arts Council for an All About Art summer camp for Fern Ridge area children. It We've been funding this for a number of years. It provides exciting experiences in the visual and performing arts. Rural Arts Center, that's for the Crow Applegate Lorraine School District. They depend on the center to provide school multicultural art instructions on shortened school days. Older students will be developing playing skills and ukulele playing skills and socialize at the centers, ukulele club. Benita Elementary School. I love this one. All students will work with an artist in residence to learn the method and science behind tie-dyeing. The wearable art each child will produce and take home will be shown during a strolling art fair at a parent-teachers conference. And finally, Word Crafters. This collaborative project with Elmira High School will provide an arts residency focusing on creative writing, spoken word performance. Teachers welcome Word Crafters residents for their ability to engage students and enlarge their writing experience and skills that help build school success. And finally, the annual Leslie Scott Imagine Grant Award is given to the funded project that best represents former General Manager Leslie Scott's contribution to the fair, which included providing opportunities for youth, reaching out to our neighbors, and nurturing creativity. This year's awardee is, slight drum roll, Word Crafters. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Love it. Writers in the Schools with Word Crafters is near and dear to my heart. All right. Now, moving on to the first agenda item of old business, which is guideline changes with Tom.
Thanks, Al. So there's a number of guideline changes, and I'll start with the first one. The board moves to accept guideline change number 1, and that's page 7, section 15, paragraph 4, information, health, and safety.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who was that?
Lisa.
Lisa, thanks. Right.
The next guideline change is the board moves to accept guideline change number 2, page 1011, section 25, childcare.
And I'll second that.
Thanks, Paxton.
And the third one is the board moves to accept guideline change number 3, page 16, section 39, environment.
I'll also second that if no one else.
All right. Did you want to handle these individually or all as one item?
Individually. So member comment, board comment on each one, then a vote on each one.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So the first item is, and I don't have these in front of me.
Guideline change number 1.
Yes, which is health.
Information, health, and safety.
Information, health, and safety. And what are you changing? What are you changing are you changing the wording?
It is a wording change, and it's in the board packet, so there's a long narrative, Al.
Got it.
Folks have read. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the short version for the.
Sounds good. I'll open it up to membership comment here, if there is any, for this first change. Jonathan Pincus. Jonathan Pincus.
Sorry, it takes me a minute to get back on.
No problem.
Yeah, I'd like to, as a member, I know that these are published somewhere, but I'd like to hear some kind of very brief synopsis of what these guideline changes do. Thanks.
As the second, I'd be happy to give an overview of this.
I would appreciate it as well.
Okay. All right. So this one is, it's the policy, or it's on page 7, section 15, paragraph 4 of the 22 guidelines. The original text says pit toilets, which are holes dug in the ground for disposal of human, animal, or animal waste, personal camp toilets, and private showers are not allowed. Violation of this guideline will result in probation or suspension. So the revision is pit toilets, holes dug in the ground for disposal of human or animal waste, personal camp toilets or porta potties, and private showers are not allowed. Violation of this guideline will result in probation or suspension. Why does this change need to be made and who would be affected? The reason is that the added or porta potties needs to be added so it's clear that these are not allowed.
Thanks, Lisa. Very succinct. Appreciate it. Back to membership comment here. I'm not seeing any hands. So we'll move to the board. John Silvermoon.
I just want to address all three of these. You know, the moving from an operation to a governance board, I think most of these guideline changes before us tonight are operational in nature. And I would hope that at some point, the board look at parsing which guideline changes are really policy and which ones are operational. I think all three of these are operational and don't need board approval, and that could fall under the authority that the board has given to the executive director. But I'll vote for all of them anyway.
Thanks, John. I'm not seeing any other comments here. Are we ready to call the question? Oh. This is just board membership or board comment now. Yes, ma'am, but we're only going for the first topic here. So, this first part of the guideline changes was submitted by Tom, seconded by Lisa.
I'm just looking at the screen. I think I see George trying to make trying to provide board input on this, right, George?
Yes, please. For some reason, I couldn't get into the chat here on my computer. I just wonder if there are any exceptions to this bylaw change. In particular, a couple of people that I know with pretty significant disabilities really need a little more special kind of accommodation in the toileting area, and that they often have, you know, what might be called a private toilet that makes it possible for them to use that at the fair.
Thanks, George. Any comments on accommodations? I see a hand from Lisa.
Yeah, I've had the same thoughts as my colleague. I think when I read this, though, it doesn't look like there's any policy change happening. It is more just a clarification of existing policy. And I think it would be worth some exploration on the topic, but I'm not sure that right now at this late date is the time. But I hear your point.
Right, Arna?
Those kinds of special accommodations, I believe, are up to operations to make when necessary. And although, the guidelines seem fairly harsh, violation of this guideline will result in probation or suspension. I do like to think that, at the fair, operations can be more discerning than that and would be in special situations. For people with disabilities that would need a toilet closer to them, or special accommodations. And I guess I trust in that, as I say, I guess this has been in our guidelines for quite a while, since it's not a big change in policy there in the guidelines. And I guess I will trust that operations would be kind and considerate of people who need these kinds of accommodations, and would respect that.
Thanks, Arna. Paxton?
I do quite a bit of walkabouts after the fair, or walks around after the fair. And I've discovered quite a few pit toilets over the years, from booths, camps, other things. I've reported them regularly to quartermaster, and I think it goes up the chain from there. But I do think this is an unneeded addition.
Thanks, Paxton. And I'll remind everyone that the chat for Zoom is really only for raising your hands at this point. The next hand is Anne.
I just want to say that in terms of the porta potties, that I think recognizing that a porta potty that is specifically for someone who has mobility issues, one of the important things to consider, and I hope operations can address it, is that these have a smaller holding tank. So if the neighbors start using it rather than the designated individual or individuals, it can cause a problem. So I support this change. But I also want to agree with Paxton about the pit toilets. And it's pretty, I have met young people who, well, we were told to dig it by our camp host, and we've always done this, and that's what we really want to stop. And I hope that operations can address the special needs porta potties and recognize that their holding tank is smaller and you can't have as many people using them, and they should be designated as such. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. AJ?
Yes, while we're addressing this, I'd like to hear from Kirsten about because I do think these penalties sound pretty harsh. And we have a large population of folks that are not going to know about this regulation change because they don't pay attention to all of these meetings or look on the .net site. So my question to Kirsten is, how flexible is operations going to be when it comes to getting this information out to people, and what are some of the exceptions that operation can make for folks that George talked about earlier?
May I address?
Please, Kirsten.
Okay. First of all, the penalty as written has been the penalty as written for a long time. So this stipulation of will result in probation or suspension has been a part of the guidelines, a part of this policy for as long as I don't know when it was put into place, but it's been around for a long time. So that is not the change. The change is the articulation of porta potties, because there are a lot of private porta potties being installed that we discovered last year. And it's not that we're opposed to porta potties, we're opposed to private porta potties. If everybody had a private porta potty, there wouldn't be enough porta potties for everybody. And it distracts from the service of the porta potties for everybody's use. So people can have porta potties, but they can't be private is what we're trying to get at with this policy. So that's kind of where the operations comes from this perspective. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsten.
Can I give a follow-up? Wasn't answered.
Sure, AJ. Yeah.
Kirsten, are there any exceptions to this based on special need?
There are exceptions. Exceptions can be granted to every guideline, but there's a process by which one needs to go through in order to be granted an exception. And that would be a council that is called to review any exceptions. Now that council could be the bums. That council could be members of staff, could be various committees that have an interest in the decision of that exception. So yes, exceptions are always on the table, but we have to walk them through a very specific process to make sure that it is well vetted, that once you make an exception, that you're willing to make that exception for every person that comes down with that request. So, they have to be, measured independently and consistently. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Back to Arnett.
Okay, I have another question for Kirsten. So have people been put on probation or suspended for this activity?
No, because our policy never said anything about porta potties. This
No,
one
but-
is specifically about the change to this policy is about porta potties.
But have people
Okay.
been suspended or put on suspension for pit toilets or other parts in here? Yes, I see nods here.
Yeah, I would have to say I've only been through one event and there was
I know.
no violations noted or brought to my attention or complaints filed for pit toilets.
So before, I saw Paul Compton had written in the chat, but I think he's taken it down, that maybe changing the wording from will be put on probation or suspended to maybe put on probation or suspended might be a softer term, a more flexible term, giving operations more flexibility without having to call in a council to make a decision, and more leeway. I don't know if that's helpful for operations or not, having that discretion of, discretionary word of may rather than will. It seems it's a friendlier word, certainly. I'd like us maybe to just consider that. It's sort of amazing. I thought this would just be the easiest one to get through. And here we're spending quite a bit of time on it. So maybe I'd like us to consider that, changing the wording of will to may.
I'm receptive to that. Again, this policy was passed by the board, who knows how long ago. It's been written like this for a long time, but all things are open to be revisited. Thank you.
So may I make a friendly amendment to this particular one to change the word will to may?
How do you, does somebody second that?
I think the motioners can just accept it, is my understanding, but which way I would go with the friendly amendment.
Tom and Lisa have to accept that friendly amendment.
Right.
I do accept that.
Lisa?
Yes, I'll accept that.
Thank you.
I do want to just briefly comment, Arna, that when you mentioned that you got an idea from somebody posting in our chat on Zoom, it invites other membership to include their input in our Zoom chat as well. And I just want to say that our Zoom chat is not for that. And please don't flood our chat where I'm trying to keep track of all these hands. Thank you.
Sorry.
So, there are more hands here as well, so I might have to scroll up to see where I'm at here. I believe we're at John Alexander.
Yeah, so real quick, I appreciate it. I know this can get challenging into wordsmithing, but I see the words have been presented to us. I really, these kind of standard operating procedures are hard to write and relook at. I just want to mention something more broadly, and I think that's out of context, but just keep it in mind. There is a mention of accommodations, and I think this is really important, accommodations in the forms of motorized transportation, just to address accommodations for anything that we put in this. If people request reasonable accommodations for something, we might just move that as a whole overarching concept, because I do think what George brought up is important almost on any kind of guidelines or rules that we put in place. And then beyond that, I really don't want to get, well, let's continue and make sure we get this right. But thank you for you all for putting this forward. Policies sometimes are not easily written concisely and then passed as motions. So appreciated.
Thanks, John. Sandra?
I had put my hand down later in there.
Oh, thanks. Paxton?
I just wanted to say, in the pit toilets I've reported in the past, I followed up on them, and people and booths have been put on probation. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Seeing no further comments, I believe we're ready to call this question. I'm going to go down the list, and it's alphabetical, so you can prepare. So on guideline changes, number 1, information, health, and something. I got most of it. Safety. Thanks. AJ, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Anne?
Yes.
Arna?
Yes.
George? George?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No worries. John Alexander?
Yes.
John Silverman?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Paxton?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
And Tom?
Yep. Yes.
Approved with unanimous consent. Thanks, everyone. The second item was brought by Tom and seconded by Paxton. Can we get a short synopsis of what this one's about?
May I suggest, I think Johnny's I thought I saw Johnny on the Zoom, and maybe this is about childcare. Maybe he could give us a short synopsis. Johnny, didn't I see you here? Maybe not.
Hi, sorry. It took me a second to figure it out. Yeah, I'm here. You want me to just talk about why we made the changes?
Yeah, maybe give a really short synopsis of it that, it's a fairly long piece and.
Yeah, so the childcare guidelines have been mostly fairly stable over the years, but we had some pretty big changes around our programming in COVID. And so this is really just reverting back to pre-pandemic childcare policy and sort of elaborating on what the current plan is for what's going on in the Wally's Way area. So they're really just sort of the basic operational sort of parameters of what's going on with childcare this year. So if you compare it to the previous year's guidelines, it's not all that much different from pre-pandemic guidelines. Good.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you.
All right, we'll open this up first to membership comment. I'll give it a moment here for people to raise their hands if they like. And from Jonathan Pincus. Probably getting close to time here.
Yeah. So I'd like to, if I could ask Johnny, so is this guideline change primarily operational? Like what services are available or the rules, like how many hours, et cetera?
Yeah, John, I'm sorry, I'm not actually looking at it right now, but yeah, it's just basically the just what it sounds like. It's the guidelines for how childcare operates and what the lost kid policy is, and what time we're open, and when childcare takes over for lost kids, and the kind of runs down the list of the services that the crew does.
Great, thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me to be able to read it to you, but
that's fine. I just wanted to understand what type of policy it was. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate the questions, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Lisa Cooley.
Sorry, you pretty much answered my question with the response to that. Although since my camp is way out in Miss Piggy's lot, I've always been confused about we get lots of lost kids wandering around in the Miss Piggy lot. And I'm never quite sure how to approach that except for just hand walking with them up to Odyssey, up to Fair Central. And I mean, I love the idea that every parent has to have a signature on file that they're responsible for their child. And I just really, really feel strongly that has to maintain massive focus, that we do not lose children at our country fair. That's all. Thank you.
Can I just speak to that real briefly? I know it's probably not within the protocol, but there's a quick answer, and it's important that everybody knows this answer just without.
I'm all for it, Johnny.
Great. It's lost kids, Fair Central. If you find a lost kid, if you hear about a lost kid, contact Fair Central. That's the rule.
Okay, thank you. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, that's great. And they'll send security out or whatever, but keep the kid in sight and contact Fair
I
Central.
hold their hand, typically
Yeah,
hold their
great.
hand and walk them to Fair Central. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
You both. Shell Bell.
Hi, I just want to clarify that absolutely, please contact Fair Central for lost kids, but under no circumstances do you bring the lost kids to Fair Central. That is not the location to bring the lost kids. So if you need to bring them to a location so that you can literally hand them over, that would be childcare. So dial 0 from any Tinkerbell phone and you can contact Fair Central and we can get the description going and get all the relevant information going. But if you're escorting the child to somewhere to drop off to wait for the parent to collect the lost parent to collect the found child, then that would happen at childcare and not at Fair Central. Thank you
Gotcha.
guys so much.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I respond one more time? Just to clarify just a little bit, Shellbell's completely right about that. I would like to just add any childcare location, anybody with a childcare staff t-shirt with our logo on the back, and that they're all trained to deal with lost kids. So any childcare location. Thanks.
And Amy, sorry I missed you earlier.
It's okay. I'm patient. I just wanted to voice my support for the awesome work that our child care team does. So
Thanks, Amy. I don't see any further hands from members, and I do see that the board is anxious to discuss as well. So, Lisa, yeah. Okay. Lisa, you're up.
Yeah, so I know it's hard when you don't see this in front of you to you don't know what the change really is. It's about 10 paragraphs worth, so I'm not going to read it all. But yeah, the first part is about childcare general length of stay, locations of childcare, diaper policy, things like that. And then the lost children portion is really clear cut as well. It has directions for pre and post fair, during fair, during the sweep, and after the sweep. And these all look very clear to me. It doesn't say anywhere to take kids to Fair Central. It just says Fair Central will be contacted, but for instance, pre and post, lost children must be reported and or taken to QM. And then during fair, it talks about beginning on Thursday at noon through Monday at noon is considered during the fair. Childcare crew operates 24-hour service for lost kids. During the sweep, parents or guardians with or without a wristband who become separated from children in their care should be directed to the child care information booth on Wally's Way. And then after the sweep, it talks about taking all found children to the Wally's Way child care info booth. So it's all really clear. Thank you, Johnny, for this work. I think it's great.
Thanks, Lisa. Paxton?
I also have it up in front of me, and it's actually quite complete, of how to deal with children at the fair. There are 4 paragraphs dealing with lost children. I agree with Lisa that it's very detailed and answers most anybody's questions. Read the guidelines. I'm amazed how many people do not read the guidelines.
Thanks, Paxton. Any other board hands? All right, we'll call the question. I'll go down the list again. It's still alphabetical. And AJ, you're first.
Can I make a quick suggestion, please?
Sure.
In the past, when we've taken votes, we've rotated, so we're not going in the same order. And I liked that process where we went alphabetical order A to Z and then Z to A. I just hope that we could bring that back. I'm still thinking, and I don't always want to be the first one to have to make my vote.
Sure. My thought process was just that you'd know that you were about to have to unmute and then, would be ready for that to keep it moving was my idea. But I'm fine with switching it up. I can rotate real easily. Sue,
You're forgetting Tom.
I'm starting randomly.
Oh, just what we need. Random. Thanks.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Cool. Paxton,
Yes.
Evan,
Yes.
John Silvermoon,
Yes.
Arna,
Yes.
Ann.
Yes, and thank you for not making me second.
George,
Yes.
John Alexander,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
and AJ.
Yes.
Unanimous consent again. Good job, everybody.
Hey, Al, can I be clear? Mine was just a suggestion.
Oh, I know it was.
Yeah. All
I
right.
took it as such.
Thank you.
I like randomization, and I understand its purpose. I get it. And I appreciate you bringing it up.
Al,
Kirsten.
may I speak? I made a typo on the old business motions. There are actually 4 guideline changes. So we're going to need a motion for number 4, which is for fire. When I removed number 1, which was withdrawn this last week, I neglected to keep the number 4 in there as well. So we have a fire guideline change. It is page 9, section 17, and page 34, section 92. So if Tom could make that motion and get a second, there are 2 more guideline changes that the board needs to consider. My apologies. Thank you.
Tom?
Yes, I can do that, Kirsten. And then we'll come back to number 3. I move to add a motion, move to accept the guidelines for number 4, page 9, section 17, and page 34 and section 92 of fire. And I can describe a little bit of that right now. It's a long paragraph, but all booths and camps and camping vehicles must have at least one 2A 10B fire extinguisher. The rule applies at all times to the fair on site. Be prepared to show firefighting equipment to fire crew who may stop to verify compliance, and then stating things that are not allowed. And then there's separate fire permits will be issued for pre, post fair and during fair. Pre-post fair campfire permits are limited and determined by the site manager. And to obtain a fire permit during fair, you will contact the fire crew for inspection. Be sure you meet the requirements for a permit before requesting an inspection. The site manager, the fire marshal, or fire crew coordinators may restrict or prohibit the use of certain types or all open flames at any time for any reason. And it goes on to sort of outline what that means.
Thanks, Tom. The motion's been put forth to add this.
Second.
Lisa seconds. Are there anyone who objects to this? Are there any abstentions? We'll call that approved. And then we'll move back to the third.
Okay.
And the third is guideline change number 3, which is on page 16, section 39, titled Environment. And that is the recycling coordinator path planning. And really it's about helping prevent invasion of the tree killing beetle known as the emerald ash borer. Do not bring firewood or wood pallets to the site. Ash wood, not milled lumber or finished craft items may carry the pest. And then firewood guidelines proposed to be added in section 17. Current wording would say burning painted or treated wood is prohibited at all times everywhere on the Oregon Country Fair property.
Thank you. And this motion was seconded by Paxton. And we'll start with membership comments. There's a hand from Amy.
Hi, it looks like maybe a little bit of the guideline change that we submitted got lost in translation. There were a couple different parts, and I actually sent the whole document to the board right before the meeting because we realized that what was submitted didn't continue to have the burning painted or treated wood is prohibited at all times everywhere on OCF property. So the change to the environment was the invasive subspecies section, and the wording that you read was correct. The addition to the fire guideline on page 17, we suggested moving it down to create its own paragraph called firewood or campfires. And it said only fires that receive permits from OCF fire crew are allowed on OCF property. No other campfires are permitted. Additionally, no other sources of open flames or tiki torches are permitted on the property. Bringing firewood from offsite to the property is prohibited to prevent the spread of invasive species. Site source firewood is available at Woodworld and can be requested by a quartermaster or site employees. Burning painted or treated wood is prohibited at all times everywhere on OCF property. So I noticed that what came back to me wasn't what was just kind of talked about. And I just wanted to make sure that you all could include the burning of painted and treated wood in both of the additions to the guidelines that we proposed. And I apologize for not doing my due diligence sooner than today.
Oh, thank you, Amy.
It is there.
I think in my reading was
It wasn't on what they sent, what the confirmation that we got back wasn't, the wording wasn't there. So, and then I got an email from someone who had read the proposed guideline change and called it to my attention. Tim awesome guy.
Thanks, Amy.
I just wanted to make sure we kept it clear, but you have the wording as proposed in your inboxes, everybody's board inboxes.
Tom, did you want to respond?
No, just thank you, Amy. That makes sense, and I do see that in front of what I'm looking at now. So I really appreciate you.
Yeah, sorry about that, Amy. It is definitely in the actual proposals that are put on the .NET site. It's just the motion itself did not reference section 17 fire as well. So a typo there, but thank you for catching that.
Jonathan Pincus.
Oh, just requesting a clarification. Does this or does this not cover wood materials that people bring to build their booths, etc.?
If I'm not mistaken, treated wood is not allowed. It's already in the guidelines.
No, I'm speaking of milled lumber or lumber or lumber that just any lumber.
Well, they don't want ash brought to the site. Any ash to be, that's what this guideline is saying. Not to bring any ash, and then also not to burn any painted or treated wood. And then the building guidelines under construction say no treated wood is to be used on site.
But it does say, pardon me, Kirsten, and just to think about what Jonathan's asking too. Ash wood, and then in parentheses, not milled lumber or finished craft items. So those would be excluded. So you could bring other lumber, not ash, as far as I understand it.
The existing policy talks about ash wood. The change takes ash wood out. I'm real confused. I mean, based on the email that Amy sent, she said the existing paragraph says, to help prevent the invasion of the tree-killing beetle known as the emerald ash borer, do not bring firewood or wood pallets to the site. Ash wood, not milled lumber or finished craft items, may carry the pest. And the suggested change is to help prevent the invasion of the tree-killing beetle known as the emerald ash borer and other harmful insects, fungi, and blights. Externally sourced firewood is not allowed, and use of wood pallets is discouraged. I see nothing in the suggested change that addresses ash in particular, and the suggested change is discouraging the use of pallets rather than saying do not bring wood pallets to the site. I actually see the suggested change as a weakening of the protections against the emerald ash borer. Am I reading that wrong?
I think actually you are reading that correct, John, now that I'm looking at that.
So why are we weakening the emerald ash borer, when it arrives on the site, is likely going to kill almost every ash tree on the site. Think about all the trees surrounding Xanadu, all the trees in the South Wood, all the trees surrounding Miss Piggy. They're going to die and they're going to be gone. We're going to lose all that shade. We're going to lose all that visual barrier. The longer we can prevent that from happening, the more time we have to do the mitigation work that we should have started years ago when we knew this was going to happen. Planting new trees, putting up additional barriers. I think it's a mistake to weaken the restrictions that would prevent the emerald ash borer from coming onto the property. So now that I actually am clear as to what's being proposed here, I can't support this guideline change as written. I think I could support it if it were changed slightly to say externally sourced firewood and the use of wood pallets are not allowed. Because it's the ash wood pallets that's the problem. And that's actually how they think the emerald ash borer arrived in North America, is from wood pallets, from shipping from Asia. So I'd like to suggest that as a friendly amendment.
Al, we have Amy's hand up.
Yep. And is it am I correct in the impression that Amy helped create the wording on this? Yeah. Okay. Amy?
Yeah, it was actually a team of us. I totally hear what you're saying. And I think that what we were trying to do was add in other harmful insects, fungi, and blights, because of the fact that we're going to get blindsided, or not blindsided, we're going to get hit by the emerald ash borer. So I completely agree, John, that we should add in that ash wood specifically. We could re-add that back in. I think that makes a ton of sense. And I'm all for not allowing wood pallets, but how do you do that? Because so many things that the site gets, like operationally, come on pallets. Just saying, but that's why it's discouraged. I just wanted to give clarification, and I wanted to, before you don't vote on like the whole guideline change, there's a lot of really good stuff at the bottom too. That's all. Thanks.
John, what exactly is the friendly amendment that you'd like to make?
I guess I have a question for operations. If wood pallets are not allowed, how would that impact operations?
As Amy says, a lot of things come in on wood pallets. So that is virtually impossible for us to enforce. Discouraged. Anything that doesn't need to come in on a wood pallet should not come in. So the differentiation between stuff that ships on a wood pallet versus brought in just for firewood or planking to use in various ways should be not allowed. So only essential pallets would be allowed that we can't separate the product from before it gets to our site.
Does that help you to clarify how you'd like to make your friendly amendment, John? I do see a hand from John Alexander too.
Um, yeah, I'll wait to hear from John. I'm still trying to figure out language here. I mean,
For
we should
sure.
actually mention at the, Ashwood somewhere, but I'll let John speak.
Did we miss Anne?
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
And we also missed George, who was ahead of me, but George has re-enlisted. And I just want to say that this is a really important issue. We have solid stands of nothing but ash. And I think the pallet issue, it's important to recognize that many pallets are made out of ash wood. And I think the only thing we can do is when something comes in on a wooden pallet is burn it right away. And let's just be glad. I think peach pits come in on plastic pallets. So, but as soon as a pallet's unloaded, if it's wood, it needs to go. And I hope the Oregon Department of Agriculture will start addressing these issues, because their webpage is totally out of date on some of this. Thank you.
Thank you. John, you're next, and then we'll go to George. I'm not seeing where George is adding his hand.
It's at the very bottom there.
I tried to put it in earlier.
Yeah,
but-
please go for it, George, and then I'll jump.
Okay.
Sorry, Al, I just trumped your, oh, I don't want to use that word. Okay.
I'm still not seeing George's hand here in the chat. It's invisible to me.
Interesting.
But go ahead, George.
Okay. Well, I think that I know that this ash board has been around a little while. I think the science is still forming in terms of, how it's transmitted. Once it's in a stand of trees, doesn't matter. I mean, is it just going to, quickly disperse, between the trees? So I think that there's some conversation about, the science of what's going on with this board and how to prevent it, and are the measures that we're taking, would they actually be useful? The other question is that this whole idea of eliminating all external firewood. I mean, the sauna burns 20 quart of firewood a year. And so does that mean I'm going to be able to source my firewood on Country Fair property?
Thanks, George.
John Alexander's next.
Should I do? Okay, I'm not sure about the process on this document itself. I really appreciate the committee who's been working on this document. I'm not sure if there's printing deadlines or what we could do, but might I just make a suggestion that we adopt these as working changes and ask for some specific things to be addressed in a new draft, and just list them as, make sure we're really taking care of the ash situation. And there was a couple big ones to help move it along and make sure we get it right, but also let the committee do the great work that they're doing on this thing. Or are we up against a super deadline on this? I'd say accept these working changes and address these larger issues that we talked about. I'm just wondering whether that's possible.
Kirsten's ready to respond here.
Thank you. There is no committee. Anybody can submit a guideline change. And so they aren't, staff does vet them to some degree, and we do identify things that we see as operational versus policy. We did see all of these as needing the attention of the board. I think it's good that we did that because the board is giving it attention that it deserves. I could have just pushed these through, and then you guys probably would have said, why did you push these through? We needed to answer to talk about these things. So some of these are, as you can see, not as not as clear as you might think. They are operationally. There's a lot of nuances in some of these things. We always, for years, have at this meeting, the February meeting, approved the guideline changes because there is a time frame that booth registration needed these printed so that they could be stuffed into mailing envelopes for the registration of the booths. Now they're doing it online, but I'd still like to keep with this process because we have a lot of other things we've got to deal with between now and the event. So consistency and tradition around when we do things, I think is important to carry forward. So there is no like drop dead other than we have to send these to the printer within the next 30 days just to meet our standard deadline to have them in-house by April. So thank you.
So can I just reply to that very quick?
Yeah.
That's great. I think that this is a great operations process, and I think that these guidelines changes are wonderful. I would hope that maybe we could just put forth a couple things that we count on you all to do your best to address, so you can get it out on time and do it under the authority of your operations with a little bit of guidance from us, as opposed to trying to work through every sentence, or not every sentence. And I think we're really providing good feedback, but let the wordsmithing go, just bring up the big issues.
Thanks. John Silverman?
I've known in the past that there have been times when a particular guideline change needed more work, that the final approval was delayed to the March board meeting. I know that makes a tight schedule. I think it's important to get this particular guideline right. I don't know, for instance, if what we need to do, and again, this is operational question too, set up a mechanism whereby anytime pallets are brought on the property, notice is given to operations so that once that pallet is unloaded, then that pallet gets removed and burnt. And to help prevent the emerald ash borer. I don't think that I just think it would behoove us to be as diligent and strict as possible to prevent that insect from arriving on the property. How it's going to affect the ash forests in the Willamette Valley is not completely certain, but I've seen how it's affected ash on the East Coast, and we don't want that to happen here. So I'd like to suggest that we hold off on approving this one and rework it to include specific mention of ash, and to work with operations to figure out what to do with wood pallets that arrive on site, and how to deal with them, and how to get that put into this. I'm assuming when food comes in, for instance, large orders of food, they may arrive on pallets and things like that. I'd like to move to table this until next meeting.
Okay, I hear a motion to postpone until next month. Is there a second?
I would second it.
A second from Sue, and I said George there too. I guess we'll vote on this motion to postpone. Do you want to discuss this motion?
Motion to table goes straight to vote.
Okay, thanks. All right, cool. I'm going to start this vote with George. Vote to postpone. Yes. Okay. John Alexander?
Aye.
All right. Paxton?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Anne?
Yes, please.
AJ?
Yes.
Arno?
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Sandra,
No.
John Silverman,
Yes.
and Kevin.
Yes.
All right. This particular item will be postponed until next month. And we will move on to the fourth guideline change, which is surrounding fire. And Tom already went over.
I can restate, it was in the packet, adding motion number 4, page 9, section 17, page 34, and section 92. And I read the gist of it just a little bit ago.
Yep. We'll open it up to membership comment first. I'm not seeing any hands from the membership, so I'll move it to board commentary here. Oh, sorry, I do have a hand from the membership. Firecat, Tom, and Eric.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
And can you see me? There we go. So I just wanted to do a little recap on this. Basically, it doesn't change anything. It just clarifies and condenses the verbiage to make it more clear. Steve and I worked on this quite a bit. And so I think it's pretty straightforward. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Any other last minute membership commentary? Okay, we'll move it to the board. John Silverman, you're first.
I wonder if it would be possible to add to this motion. There was, what we just tabled did have a short section about adding burning painted or treated wood is prohibited at all times everywhere on OCF property to, the firewood guidelines. I wonder if it's possible to add that part to this motion so we can get that adopted into the guidelines. Does that make sense? To whoever the maker of the motion is and the second?
Can I respond?
Please.
I believe it's already in there. It's been in there in the past. I don't have it in front of me, but that's always been the case.
It is in the motion. It is in there already.
Did that clarify for you, John?
Never mind.
I see it. Yeah.
All right. I see Lisa, you're next.
Yeah, I think that this revision is really great. I think the format is much more user-friendly, much more clear. I think that the previous version of the guideline, just kind of a bunch of text and paragraphs. I find that bullet points are much easier for people to read through and get the main point of what's and I like that. So, it has a list of things that are never allowed and it's bullet pointed, and things that are allowed under the specified conditions and it's bullet pointed. And I like that. So I approve of this.
Thanks, Lisa. Any other board comments? All right, I'm going to move forward to vote on this one. Call the question. John Alexander.
Aye.
Aye. I was waiting for you to say I what?
Yes.
Arna,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
John Silvermoon,
Yes.
Paxton.
Yes.
Another unanimous consent. Thank you, everyone. I do believe that concludes the first long guideline change item on old business. And next we have some declarations of potential conflict of interest. This doesn't need approval, right? This is just more of an announcement. Correct? Or is this something?
No, traditionally, when a board member has an interest, either direct or indirect, in any contract with the Oregon Country Fair, they must declare it and the board must approve it. So in this instance, the Ritz Sauna has a contract with the Oregon Country Fair, which it has had for many, many, many years. This was approved last year. It is only based on the compensation that is in the agreement, not in the operational aspects of the agreement. The compensation allotted the Ritz in this contract is 110 wristbands. The board needs to accept that term of the contract. Thank you.
All right.
Can I go ahead and make the motion?
Please.
The board moves to accept the potential conflict of interest for the 2023 Ritz Sauna contract between the Oregon Country Fair and the Ritz LLC, which George Braddock serves as the board president. This compensation includes 110 wristbands.
I second.
Thank you. Motion put forth by AJ, seconded by Arna. Is there any? I see that there is. Hillary, we'll start with some membership commentary, starting with Hillary.
Yeah, just as a little bit of background, when there's a potential conflict of interest disclosed, it's the board's duty to evaluate that contract and make sure that it's not giving undue favor to the board member or the other party other than the fair. If it's a business as usual, arm's length transaction, that's fine. If it favors the fair, that's not a conflict on behalf of the director or the other party. So that's what's being done, is that the board is evaluating and assessing whether or not this is a normal course of business type transaction, being one of the reasons that they can say this is fine and it should go ahead. Or if they have questions, if that this is the time that they can evaluate and do their due diligence for that.
Thanks, Hillary. Grumpy?
Sorry, it just took me a second. I just have a question as to how many wristbands they've gotten in the past. If this one says 110, how many have they gotten, say, last year?
110. No change.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're just hitting 9 o'clock. Is there any board commentary here? I see none, so. Oh, John.
I'd like to move to table.
I'll second.
And seconds. Okay, the motion is to move to table this item. Arna,
No.
AJ,
No.
Kevin,
No.
Lisa,
Yes.
Sandra,
No.
Sue,
Yes.
Don,
No.
Paxton, Paxton,
Sorry, I had my mute on. Yes.
John Silverman,
Yes.
John Alexander,
Sorry, I got lost. No, this is on to move the table, right?
this is a motion to table. Yeah. George,
No.
and Anne.
Yes.
We have 5 yeses and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 no's. I believe that motion doesn't pass. You need a 2/3.
It's been tabled.
Oh,
It's been
it
tabled.
does pass.
Wait,
No,
how does
it's
that
not
work?
tabled.
No.
It is not tabled.
7 voted no.
Not to table, or, yeah.
Right. Okay. Sorry, my bad. Never mind.
Okay, yeah, non-tabled. That motion did not pass. We will continue. Do we need to motion to continue this meeting because it's after 9?
Al, I just have one comment. I think, George, you may have to recuse yourself from this one. I'm sorry to bring that up, but because it's about the Ritz sauna, and I hate to throw a monkey wrench in this, but I think that's the case, or am I wrong?
Well, he could vote no to tabling, but you are correct. He probably should recuse himself on the accepting of the potential conflict of interest.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Anna.
I don't believe he has to recuse himself. He has declared his conflict. And I don't believe he has to recuse himself from the vote once he has declared his conflict.
That's what I understand as well.
Got it.
Okay, so the motion to table failed. We will continue with board comment. Do any members of the board have any commentary?
Do you see my hand? I put a hand up.
Haha, it's up there. I do see it. Thank you, AJ. Please go ahead.
So membership watching. Now you see. It's so obvious. Vendettas and people not even given a reason. This has no reason other than spite to not pass this motion. It's we have been doing this for years. This has never been an issue. But there's some people who have issues with George or whoever, and they're doing this out of spite. And I think the membership should know and take note of this. This is ridiculous. So to table this, just so you know what that means, is that you now run the risk of not having a Ritz or sauna if they get their way. That's the bottom line. They're not asking for anything more than they had last year and the previous time. It makes no sense. So I would demand an explanation of why table it this year, or why try to defeat this
AJ?
motion this year.
Not in my interest to
Yeah.
ask that question in this space here.
There's no further discussion. We move to vote.
I have a hand up.
I see John Alexander.
Okay. Thank you very much. I want to clarify to make sure I understand this. Thank you for acknowledging the conflict of interest. That's all of our responsibilities. That's part of what we're doing. We're acknowledging that there's a conflict of interest here. There's a detail about the wristbands, so I'm assuming that would be approved in this too. And then it was suggested that now that we know there's a conflict of interest on the table, that it's our responsibility of the board to make sure that the contract is reasonable and everything else, but working within our lane, not necessarily the lane of operations, but providing that oversight because this conflict of interest is on the table. So am I correct? This is a simple motion to understand that there's a conflict of interest, and thank you for putting it on the table. 2, because they're specific about the wristbands, we're okay with that aspect of the contract. And 3, we acknowledge that it's our responsibility to ensure that contract is fair. And somebody else put those words much more eloquent than I did, just to keep it straightforward, that's what it's about. Am I correct? Thank you.
Can I direct? It's a potential conflict that you're evaluating, and it's a transaction. It's not just the wristbands, it's the services that are then provided in exchange for the wristbands. It's not just going one way. The fair is then getting back the pre-fair showers and weekly saunas and exchange.
And 960 passes.
Yeah.
Can I direct just to be clear?
Yes.
So absolutely. However, we're not necessarily approving all of the details about this contract in this motion. We're acknowledging the potential conflict of interest and the details about the number of wristbands articulated. Correct?
The transaction, right, the transaction.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you. I believe I see hands from John Silvermoon and then Arna.
There were communications amongst some board members about the desire to table and the reasons for tabling. George, I consider a friend. My motion to table is not a vendetta against George. I talked to George before this meeting that I would be voting to table, so that he was not blindsided by that. I don't think George considers this a vendetta. And the reason I wanted to table it is because the concerns that I and others had are not appropriate to discuss in an open meeting. So I now find myself once again between a rock and a hard place. The duties of obedience that people talk about a board member having is a duty to ensure that the organization is following and obeying the law, applicable laws. My duty of obedience to this organization motivated my desire to table this motion, and it will inform my vote against approving this conflict of interest. I preferred not to vote against this, and that's why I wanted to table it, so that the issues that I and others had could be addressed. But so be it. And and again, it's not appropriate to discuss those particular issues in an open session.
Thanks, John. Arna?
Well, I'm not sure what issues Don is speaking about because he didn't talk to me about them. But, you know, the only issues relevant to this are the contract that we're going to have with George. Kirsten, I assume, has negotiated that contract. Contracts have been negotiated with George for as long as I know. I negotiated them when I was GM 30 some years ago. You know, George has always gotten extra passes for the services that he provides for the fair. And they're very essential services and we all enjoy them and need them. The service that the Ritz provides is just, amazing for all of us. And that's the only issue that we're talking about here. This contract for George to provide the services that the Ritz gives us for these passes. That's it. That's the only thing that's relevant here. And I will be voting yes on this because I, want the Ritz to keep functioning for us. I want our pre-fair showers for our staff. I don't want any problems with that. And I think that the sauna deserves that. So anything else, as far as I'm concerned, is totally irrelevant to this. You have other issues with the sauna that might be operational, take them to operations. They don't belong here and they don't belong being discussed or stopping this motion. Thanks.
Thanks. Next up is Lisa.
Yeah. So I certainly have no personal vendetta with George, and I believe that he knows that. As a board member who is being asked to evaluate this contract and potential conflict of interest, I take my duty to do my due diligence very seriously. I haven't even seen the contract, so I don't know how I could possibly evaluate something I haven't even seen. And I really, I think that tabling the motion is not even the same thing as stomping it. It is just asking for more time for board members to evaluate this. And so, yeah, that's what I'm hoping that we can do. And I'm just asking my fellow board members to please, allow us to do our due diligence and just table it tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Paxton.
Did I hear my name next?
Yep.
Thank you. I love the sauna. I hang out there a lot. I really want to see it succeed, but I do have some questions about the contract that I am concerned about. I had hoped we'd get a chance to get more answers, and that's one of the reasons why I moved to a table. And anyway, I have questions about the contract and the way it's implemented. Thank you.
All right. After Paxton is AJ.
Yeah, I find it highly inappropriate that if you have questions about the contract, we're discussing it now. You should ask your questions. This idea that you're hiding behind, we have questions for the contract, and we're discussing this motion right now. Why not ask your questions? Why are we hiding this from the membership? This is unbelievable. For the membership to understand, I got a call from one of the people who are trying to table this last night, telling me they were going to table, not giving me reason that fit with this motion. So if you're tabling this motion for reasons that are not connected to this exact motion and this contract right here, then you're not following the guideline of this motion right here. This motion is simple. And if you have issues with that, some of you guys were there that voted for this last year. Nothing's changed between that contract and this contract. So why are you hiding it from the membership? This thing, putting it out there to them like there's something that's there that's not there, but you're not willing to discuss it. It doesn't fall under personnel. It doesn't fall under legal. It doesn't fall under It doesn't fall under the property where we were looking for part. It doesn't fall under any three of those confidential subjects. We're discussing this motion right here. This is unbelievable.
Sandra?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to point out that this motion has been on the docket for a month now. It was new business last time, and it is old business tonight. That gives people a month to do whatever kind of due diligence they need to do in order to be able to vote. And I am completely blindsided by this attempt to bring up extraneous issues at this point and ask for another month to do the due diligence that, if it was that important to you, that you should have been doing that before. We don't approve contracts. We don't approve the buses. We don't approve any of those. We never see them. It's operation, and the operations has put together a contract with George that they feel is giving us the value that we need in exchange for what we give him, which is 110 passes. And this is a hugely important part of our event. They wash 25 to 30,000 people over the weekend. That is a heavy lift. And, having, a contract in place and letting people plan how they're going to do the jobs that they've taken on, I think is hugely important. I think we need to stay in our lane. And right now, I think we're drifting into operations. I don't know exactly what we're drifting into, but this is the same exact contract with the Ritz that we approved last year. And some of these, and you're right, some of the same people on this Zoom call approved that last year. So it's the potential conflict that we're voting on, not all these other things. He either has a conflict or he doesn't. I don't think he does. I think we're getting value for what we're giving him, and that's what we need to vote on. Thank you.
Thanks, John Alexander.
I know this is getting circular because now many of us have spoken more than once. I want to clarify again. I'm not understanding this motion as having anything to do with the details of this contract, and it's simply addressing the fact that there could be a potential conflict of interest. It mentions passes, and if there's other things that need to be done by operations to do due diligence on the contract, if we pass this motion is not about us getting into the details of the contract and approving that contract. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It's about acknowledging the potential conflict of interest and that one line item about those things. And that recognizes then for operations that we need to take a good close look and make sure it's done right. Is that correct?
Yes. Kirsten?
Yeah, I just want to be really clear that I submitted a draft contract in the board packet last month when this became new business. So it was draft, but none of the details of compensation were changed. So the board has had a draft of this contract. It is exactly the same draft as what was used in 2022. Thank you.
So Kirsten, just point of clarity, that's not necessarily what we're approving. We're approving moving forward with a contract, right?
We're moving forward on approving the compensation within that contract. I provided a copy of the contract for your perusal so that you could see where the compensation occurred in the contract.
Right.
So
That's
in
fantastic.
this, yeah, so in this, I shortened it so that you see exactly in one sentence what is the compensation attached to this contract. And that is 110 wristbands, because it occurs in several different places in the contract where wristbands are discussed. And so this is a simplification to tell the board that in total, he is budgeted to receive 110 wristbands as he was budgeted for last year in the contract, but that the contract has been provided to the board in draft form. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsten. Back to Arna.
All right, I'm going to be brief here. We don't approve contracts. That's Kirsten's job. The only reason this is coming to us is because George is on the board. And so there's a potential conflict of interest. And so it has to be declared and said. And I'm going to leave it at that because John Alexander and Sandra have really stated everything else I would state. So that's it.
Perfect. Kevin.
Yeah, I just want to say, I love the sauna as well, and it feels weird because it does seem like it's just a normal conflict of interest, and so I figure if it was something with the contract or if there was issues like that, that would have come to us as a motion to change the contract, and so feels like it's just kind of very normal stuff here, but full support, George. Love the sauna. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Anne?
I just want to say, I don't understand why I was sent a draft of this year's, which was basically the 2022 contract. If all I was being asked for is to approve 110 wristbands, because there's a lot more in that. And I think there are legal implications, beginning with the very beginning where it says the sauna will be available Monday, June 3rd, 2023. That's not when June 3rd is. And, it's all these little things. And I spoke to AJ about it and I told him I had issues with a lot of the little things. I spoke to Kirsten. I reached out to Kirsten and she said 110 wristbands. So why wasn't I just asked for 110 wristbands to compensate George Braddock's operation? And that's my confusion. Maybe providing me with too much information was not the right thing. And maybe this will be a lesson for the future, but I strongly feel there are other things in there that now that I've read it, that should be of serious consideration in terms of not just operations, but our policy in how we institute certain financial transactions. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. Paxton.
I have legal concerns with the contract, and I'll express them to Kirsten personally. I don't think it's appropriate to bring it up here, but there are legal concerns of mine in this. So, and I'll follow up on it, but that will generate my vote. Thank you.
Thanks. And I see no further hands.
I had a hand.
Oh, George, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on here and why I can't see it, but please.
Just as a point of information, this exchange for the services that the sauna provides to the fair in exchange for 110 passes has been exactly the same compensation that we've asked for since 2007. You have no other contract that has held the line like the sauna has in regard to compensation for what we provide.
Thanks, George. AJ?
If there are legal concerns after what is that now, 16 years of this exact same contract, then all of a sudden this is simple exact has legal concerns that people are not willing to talk about and blindside the whole board with this. Interesting. That's all I have to say is that membership, take note.
Seeing no further. John.
I'd like to point out that the economic benefit accruing to the sauna also includes that the fair is going to pay and service the toilets, provide toilets. That's not part of this motion, but that's part of the agreement. That's an indirect economic benefit. So that's a technical point, but in the past, the board's seen the entire contract. And the legal issue that I have is something that was not present a month ago or previous years. It's something that is recent.
Is there any further member commentary? All right, we're going to call the question. To approve the compensation of 110 wristbands to George as part of this sauna contract. Ann?
Go.
Paxton?
Sorry, no.
Sandra?
Yes.
John Alexander?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Lisa? Lisa?
I have to abstain from this vote.
Okay. John Silverman?
No.
AJ?
Yes.
Arna?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Sue?
No.
And Tom?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think you're shy.
If there's one abstain, there, I think it's not shy. We have
7.
one. If there's one abstention, 7 passes.
No, abstentions don't count as votes.
That's correct. So there are 12 of you here. You need 2/3, so you need 8 yeses. You have 7 yeses. This is not approved.
You need 2/3 of 11.
With the 7.
No, there are 12 of you here.
But one,
But the abstention doesn't count.
Right, so that's 11 votes.
That's right.
2/3 of 11, 7.3 needs 8 votes to pass.
Yeah. Regardless, yeah, you still need 8, even if there's only 11 of you. So the motion fails.
Can I make a motion?
Who?
This is John Alexander.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe, I mean, I'll table it, but
Yeah. I think this is just where we're at.
Okay, Al, let's move forward.
Yep. New business is laid out before you. So we move on to the meeting evaluation. Paxton?
Well, I was just wondering, I would love to review bring this back up at the next board meeting. I have, I may very well change my vote if I can get answers to my legal question.
Someone will need to introduce it as new business at the March meeting. And the next vote that could be possible would be April. Thank you.
Which would be too late, correct?
Unless the board votes to move it from new to old.
No, it's not too late until we get to the actual event. Thank you. It's traditionally done in January. From what I'm being told, that all declarations of potential conflicts are usually reviewed by the board in January. But we have up until the event to do this, but somebody's going to need to make a motion, get 3 people to back it, and get it back on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. We have some people in the queue.
I do see them. John, do you have something for the meeting evaluation?
No, I'll pass for now.
Okay. Heather Kent.
So this is meeting evaluation.
It is.
And, yeah. And my meeting evaluation is, as a member, I want to heartily thank AJ for bringing up the things that he brought up around this motion. And it's so interesting because the Oregon Country Fair seems to be a place where instead of our shit settling to the bottom, it floats to the top and becomes board stuff, but nobody can really see it. So things come up like out of the blue, tabling the motion for the sauna, and a whole bunch some of you board members think you're blindsided. I'll tell you what, everybody else is totally blindsided and knows that they are not in the right tier of knowledge in the organization to have any idea what's happening. So for those of you who actually say what you're thinking, rather than hiding behind it's maybe a legal thing or what have you, you are so appreciated.
Thanks, Heather. Kevin?
I was going to put my hand out. I thought we were still talking about the song.
Sure.
I just was curious. So if it never gets approved, I mean, do we just lose the sauna? But I mean, maybe that's for later.
I think we have to table that for now.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Jonathan Pincus.
Yeah, I would share some of Heather's comments there. I think the more the membership knows, the better. I am not for the sequestering of information beyond the 3 standard categories that would be confidential. This last one seemed to me really simple. So I'm really mystified. It seems like some kind of machinations are going on, but I don't know what they are. What I do know is that the sauna is a real complex operation. It takes a lot of work to get it together, and the people running it need a really long framework to get their job done. And so I hope that the board does not delay this contract, even though you might be able to past the next meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Lisa?
Yeah, I really wish that we could move beyond inferring bad intentions and demonizing each other when we have differing opinions. I left the board retreat this year more optimistic than I have ever been. I really had hope that this new board would be able to cooperate a little better with each other and not keep maintaining divisions. And I'm just feeling really disappointed and discouraged that we keep going back there.
Thanks, John Alexander.
Yeah, when I like this evaluation part, I try to keep a framework of plus delta positive change. Al, you continue to hold a great space. Tom, I thought it was great for you to open the meeting with a statement of reminding us what our mission is. And I think we need to continue to be clear about what our motions are and what the outcomes are. And I think we got into details about something that a motion was not about, which was the details of the contract. So I would love to see if we can get that through on behalf of our beloved Ritz with regards to the intent was addressing the potential conflict of interest and the compensation only, not all those other details.
Thank you. AJ.
Well, yeah. So I all you guys know by now, 2.5 years now, I speak my mind and my piece. And I'm going to do that for as long as I can. But the reality of this tonight is for the membership to see that the dysfunction amongst this board, it continues because of transparency. Some people get in front of you and they're not transparent about decisions that they're making behind closed doors and conversations that they're having behind closed doors. If you look at tonight's agenda, the same folks that voted against this motion with George Braddock are the same folks that are bringing you next month a motion to cast a broad umbrella over confidentiality. Why are they doing this, you ask? For these specific reasons. Membership, you have the right to know why we are voting the way we are voting. And the fact that this is being hidden from you and all of these excuses are being made for that reason, I want you to pay attention to that. We have an election coming up. This is how you should vote. Or who are those people that are being real to you and telling you why they voted the way they voted instead of hiding? This motion was it was simple. It's simple. But look at who voted the way they voted. And last but not least, I don't think a person can get on here and say we had good feelings about after the retreat and ask for positivity and all that, and then go on web pages and attack people behind closed doors through emails and things like that. So that's disingenuous. And so I ask you to look at that as well. Look at who's posting things on Facebook, what board members are having conversations about things that they promised to all the board that we wouldn't discuss.
Somebody let me know that George was in the stack there. George?
I'm gonna pass. I don't have anything positive to add to that. I'm sorry.
No problem. Arna?
I wish I could say something really positive about our meeting tonight, but I really don't quite have it in me. Maybe it's the hour and I'm tired, but this whole discussion about the sauna really saddened me. That I'm sad that a contract that has been approved for years is all of a sudden has legal issues, and that, which I don't understand. And if 5 board members felt that there were serious legal issues, why weren't they writing to the rest of us on the board? This is the first I've heard of this. It is not our job to do the contracts. That is operations. I'm sure if there were legal concerns that Kirsten would, or, our ED would have taken care of it. But if board members do have concerns about that, they should have told all of us, not just 5 of you. Why didn't I get a phone call or an email? Why wasn't the whole board informed? If you want to work as a board, you involve everybody. And I guess that's what makes me sad. I feel, blindsided by all of this. That, a contract, we weren't approving a contract tonight. We were just approving this one little piece of his compensation for this, possible conflict of interest. It had nothing to do with the rest of the contract, at all. We're not approving the contract. We're approving the passes in the contract. That all of this irrelevant stuff got brought in really, really saddened me. It didn't need to be brought up. We didn't need this conversation. It shouldn't have happened. It wasn't our due diligence. It's because it's not our job. And if you really felt it was your job, you've had this for a month, the people who voted against this. You had it for a month. Why am I just hearing about this tonight that you have concerns? I don't think most of the board knew that you had concerns about this. Why are we just hearing it now? If you talk about doing your due diligence, part of that is letting us know too. I guess I'm just sad about it. So, thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Remember, this is a evaluation of the meeting and not a continuation of that last topic. There's like a fine line, and it's hard to tell. So I'm just reminding everybody. Let's see. I believe the next one is Spirit.
Yeah, I was going to say I need to be at the end, but I do think that this constitutes a point of order here. I think we need to pause for a second. I do not agree at all with the count of votes. It should have only taken 8 to approve that contract, unless I might have missed something.
No, you're right.
Or so I'm sorry. It should have taken 7 to pass. Can we look at this really quick? Because
Sure.
An abstention, if people want to go back and look at 2019, there was an abstention in the November board meeting, and the action got reversed.
So
I just want to double check before we end this meeting.
Sure. So assume an abstention means that there's only 11 people here instead of 12, which I disagree with, but if that's how you run things historically, that's fine. You still need 2/3 of the vote to win, which is still 8.
Okay, and so that there was 7, and that's what the thing is. That's what I was missing, and that's why I want to call. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure to clarify that, and then I also wanted to, I guess I just wanted to say that I'm just entirely disappointed in exactly what everybody else has said. So actually, I'll just leave it be. Sorry, and thank you for clarifying.
No problem. I love talking about this stuff. Anne?
I just want to thank everyone for making the guideline changes that we did make. And to just say, when you come across new information less than a week before a board meeting, you may not be able to communicate to everyone. But I really appreciate the discussion on Ashwood, because we do have some major decisions to make. Thank you. And thank you, Al. You're doing great, I think.
Thanks. LT.
Yeah, hi again. Just process wise, I'd like to say a couple things. I do think that presuming a bad intent and insinuating or even explicitly stating a bad intent because someone raises an issue which they don't believe it's appropriate to discuss in an open meeting, I don't think it's a healthy aspect of the discussion at all. And so I'd like to encourage people to avoid that if they can. I was a little puzzled by something I saw earlier, which was one member suggesting that somehow she could reserve the last word in the discussion. And I hope that that's not our practice. And I'd be delighted to reserve the last word myself if that were the case, as I'm sure anybody would. I'm going to assume good intent on the part of board members who had legal concerns, but I'm also going to make a prediction. And I'm going to predict that the sauna is going to function as always, that George and his wonderful team will get everything they need, and that there will be no interruptions of service or a diminution of quality, and that everything is just going to work out. And I stand by that prediction, and I will face all of you if it turns out I'm wrong.
Thanks, LT. Kevin?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Al, for working with us on a, tougher meeting, I guess you could say. And yeah, I wasn't, I want to go back to the thing, but I wasn't notified either. And guys, gang, if there's anything legal, please reach out. I hug hard, but I don't bite. And so, George, I found a coin today. So, whether it happens or not, George, I'm going in there. And so, so I want to say, I know we'll get through it, everybody, but yeah, let's definitely keep working towards making it a better process for all of us, as well as the members and everyone dealing with it. The better we all communicate with each other, the better it will work out. And so let's hope we can keep working towards that. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Kevin. John Alexander.
I apologize. This is going to potentially, and if I'm reading this wrong, throw a total wrench in it all. But under the bylaws, section 7, voting, it says no, at the end of 2/3, the majority of all directors present and voting at a meeting at which a quorum is present shall be an act of the board of directors. For the purposes of this section, abstentions shall not be counted as votes.
First of all, it's not going to throw a wrench in everything, because whether we consider it as 12 people here or 11 people here, you needed 8 votes and you had 7. So it's not going to change anything.
Okay. Great. I just was clarifying that. I'm not understanding it, but I will go do homework. Appreciate it, everybody. Sorry.
No problem. But I also can quibble with the way that you read it, or the way you're reading it. So we'll talk about it.
I would love to do that.
All right. I don't see any further hands. The next board meeting is Monday, March 6th, 2023, 7 p.m. There is the president's piece here, and then the singing bowl. Okay.
Wonderful. Thanks, Al. Thanks, everybody. Sometimes meetings are hard, and sometimes we work through some things. I was just kind of trying to manifest as much positivity as I could, which is always a good thing to do. And I was remembering when I was a kid, and I can almost remember the smell of hay when I was walking, along, as a very young kid into the fair. And I can remember the first time that I, as a teenager, got to run around by myself. It was incredibly exciting and kind of scary. And I remember I met my wife at the fair when, we were 17 or 18. I'm 53 now, so that's a long time ago. We've spent all that time at the fair together at a booth. I remember the first time I got juried in, and I was so excited. And then I had to get into a wood shop and work on some of the things for the booth. My father-in-law and I have rebuilt our booth several times. And I just have so many incredible memories of the fair and the things that make the fair special. and I hope that we continue to sort of manifest in ourselves our own experiences in terms of what the fair has brought us, and the smells and the music and the taste of cheesecake and all of the things that are amazing parts of the fair. And I'm going to try really hard to continue to really remember those things and remember why I'm here as a board member to help make those things happen for my children. And I appreciate everybody, and I appreciate the membership for being very involved. And I really look forward to seeing everybody at the fair, and being able to share in our own experiences. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. All right, I will close us out with this singing bowl. I'm just so worried you won't be able to hear it. I'm sure it'll be fine. Mm-hmm.